Hello everyone, I'm Axelius the Great. I draw, write, and world build, and I wanted to share some of that with you. I'm not a professional artist, as I have never had an art job, but I'm going to be explaining to you my art process via a recent piece of mine. This isn't the sort of art I'm familiar with making, but I use the same process in making it as art I am familiar with. The first step in making art is coming up with an idea. I wanted to make a Christmas present for a friend of mine, so I asked another friend who knows him, and she told me he likes alien landscapes. In other cases, I make artwork by thinking of things I am passionate about, such as world building or my characters. I'll probably make another video covering the creation of a personal piece like that. The second step of making art is gathering references. I can't show the references I gathered here, as I don't own any of the artwork I used to inspire my composition and colors. What I often do is go through websites like ArtStation and look at the general idea of what I want to draw, such as big tree, Arctic city, or, in this case, alien landscape. I also use pictures I have personally taken, since I like taking pictures of places I have visited. Sometimes the pictures I put on my reference board become relevant to the artwork, sometimes they don't, but I put them there just in case. Once I have my idea and my references, I begin to make my thumbnails. I like to make multiple different shapes for a piece, even if I think I already know what I want, since I might have good ideas that I wouldn't have had if I didn't try multiple frames. I usually directly take compositions from my references, since I'm bad at coming up with compositions on my own. This can take some time since I usually do multiple thumbnails, and I'm not a very quick artist. I use the rule of thirds to decide where I put all the objects in my composition. I like to have an empty third, a semi-busy third, and a busy third. However, I don't focus on this much until the rendering stage. At the end of making these thumbnails, I choose which I like the most and move on to the next step. The fourth step is adding color to my chosen thumbnail. I like to do 4 tries for this, though it usually only takes me 1 or 2 to find the colors I want. In terms of choosing colors, I look to my references again. This is relative to the subject. If I'm making a classic landscape, I'll play with different times of day or weather. In this case, I just went with various colors I think are complementary. Because I want the center to feel very bright, I used warm colors surrounded by cool colors. I decided to use my first color thumbnail, since the interaction of the colors in the rocks and in the sky pleased me. With my composition and colors chosen, I begin the process of rendering. This takes up the bulk of my time. I begin with blocking in the shapes of my composition on different layers, all in the basic colors I chose for them. From there, I start in the back of the painting with drawing the sky or whatever the farthest back object is. I focused on the sky for quite some time here, since it's the center of the piece and the most colorful part. I moved forward from there and worked on the rocks a lot, since their colors in the thumbnail really appealed to me. For a lot of this process, I was just working back and forth on the various parts of the piece when I noticed I disliked parts of them. I like to do art in this sort of naturalistic way, since I usually end up focusing detail on the parts of the piece I care the most about, which are most often where I want the viewer to be looking. Eventually, I work on the art for long enough that I look at it and see that I like it, and this is usually when I stop. I usually do art in as few days as possible to avoid losing interest, but this can lead to me overlooking some parts of the drawing or not seeing mistakes where some exist. To remedy this, I often return to the art the next day to clean up my mistakes. I didn't do that in this case since I didn't have a plan to render this, but I'll discuss some of my mistakes anyway. The biggest mistake I made was in the size of the bright spot in the nebula thing. It would have been much more effective if it had been a good deal smaller, but as is, it takes up too much space and feels too extreme. Another issue I noticed soon after stopping work on the piece is that the background rocks around the base of the background mountains are weirdly pink, which doesn't fit in well with the color scheme of the rest of the painting. This is because I forgot to put the same gradient on the small rocks as on the mountains, and so including that gradient would fix the issue. The last big thing I noticed that could be remedied quickly is the foreground rocks on the right are too close in shade to the shadow on the ground. Again, this could be fixed quickly. Overall, all the piece would need is a few more hours of work to end up looking much improved, but I have a lot to do at the moment. After criticizing my work, I think it's best that I praise it as well, since it's easy to be too hard on yourself as an artist. It's good for all artists to find things they like about their art, as well as things they want to improve on. Therefore, I'd like to say that I really like how the colors in this piece generally turned out. They're very different than what I'm used to doing, so I feel lucky that I managed to make them look so good. On top of that, the nebula looks quite striking. Depth is conveyed well by the light and dark layers. Last, and most importantly, the guy I made it for liked it, and that's why I made it. With that, I think I've said all I want to. Thank you for watching, please like and subscribe if you'd be so kind, and comment with your thoughts on the art in the video. If you have any suggestions for future videos or ideas of what I could draw in the future, I'd also appreciate comments about that. I'll see you all later.